This week on the podcast, we didn't have one last week, did we? We took a nice podcast sabbatical, and returning, we wanted to talk to some of our favorite people from the mission team to La Palmilla. Josiah, also known as Josiah Zook, as well as Sisay, also known as Sisay Zook. And we just wanted to kind of catch up with them, see how life has been since the trip and what they experienced on the trip. And so I guess my first question would be, what was La Palmilla like?
I guess the place was like really cool.
Paint us a picture. We're in audio format.
Like there was the big church. That was really cool. And then the park next to it was like the Zocalo or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then the houses all around on the other side. It all just felt really close and like cool. It was a small little town. The people were all really cool and inviting and welcomed us into their homes without even knowing us, which was really touching.
Yeah. Who was your host family?
Oton, Lucia, Alan, and Axel.
And tell us a little bit about your family. What was it? What were they like as individuals? How were they with you guys? What was it like trying to live with a family that you didn't speak the language of?
Well, actually, we did speak the language of them because they lived in New York for 9 years, so they knew like almost fluent English. And
the whole family did, or just Oton?
Oton did. Lucia knew a bunch.
Okay.
And then Alan and Axel were learning in school.
Oh,
so
okay.
Their food was really good. They bought an air conditioner for us, which was really kind. Because no one else had air conditioners on the trip. They were really cool people.
And Sisay, tell us about your family. Who were they, and what was it like living with another family?
I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right still, but Refugio, that was the father, Mireia, and that's the daughter, and then Ceci is the mother. They were very sweet. They were very quiet and sort of to themselves, and it was very hard to like communicate, obviously, because I have no English at all. I mean, no,
you have no English. I agree with that.
No Spanish at all. And they didn't know any English, so it was very hard. So we used like Google Translate the whole time, which helped. But yeah, they were super sweet. The food was good. I liked their dogs a lot. I miss all of them. So yeah.
Just the dogs?
No, all of them.
Because you had what, 2 dogs, right?
Yeah.
What were their names?
Boofy and Raiden. Boofy was the pug. He was always tied up for some reason. I don't know why, but...
Can't trust the pug.
We had a Lassie and a Rocky at our house, the dogs.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Oh, man.
It's like Lassie, that's classic.
I was thinking, no, Rocky, to Philadelphia, where we're from.
Yeah.
Well, basically from. I was about to say, Scott, I'll throw you under the bus. Well, tell us about your family.
Yeah, we stayed with Ismael and Maciel and their extended family. They had kids, who were living with them. They had parents who were living with them. They had, nieces and nephews who lived across the street and were over all the time. But Ismael is quite the entrepreneur. He owns a shop, and then on the weekends he also rotisseries chickens to sell. And on Saturdays and Sundays he recently installed a pizza oven and is selling pizza as well. And it was just, they're great to be with. Josiah and Sisay have said the hospitality that they showed us was second to none, and they were so gracious and generous and, bore with us so well as we tried to fumble with the little bit of Spanish that we had. And we did a ton with, offline translators and stuff, just trying to, we'd speak it into English and then press the button and it'd come out in Spanish to them, and then they'd do the reverse. And so, it took a little while to actually have some conversations, but I can't imagine living in those contexts with them for those 10 days without having those, like you probably would have had to do even a couple years ago. Yeah. And so you'd have to have a translator with you all the time, or sit there and smile at each other.
Sign language.
Yeah. So I think those really were a great opportunity for us.
And tell me a little bit about the construction work we did and what that was like for y'all.
We helped do a lot of the grunt work, I guess, for the parsonage. For me, it was just a lot of shoveling. Yeah, it was just shoveling every day, like mixing concrete, shoveling dirt to move buckets, or mixing the wet or dry concrete. Yeah, it's about it. I carried some buckets, but...
Sisay, how about for you?
Well, I guess I just carried buckets back and forth. Usually empty ones because it was hard to do the full ones. I don't know, just picked up a lot of, trash and walked it all the way down and stuff. It was very hot. So even if it was easy work, it was still, hard because it was hot.
Very intense heat. And I remember the first day we were looking at that pile, and they were like, we just got to move that pile to the roof. I was like, oh, yeah, in an hour we'll have that done. And 3 days later, you're like, oh, that was a really big pile. Yeah. Yeah, what about you, Scott, at your position in life?
My position in life, as old guy on the trip. So
I was going to say a father of four, but sure.
That is a lot of just the labor of the work, just carrying stuff. Although one day I did have an opportunity to work with one of the guys, Christian, and learned how to help tie the rebar and planks into place so that way they could pour the concrete for the headers of the walls of the classrooms they were building. So that was neat to be able to work with him, and he used just a little bit of English and I used my little bit of Spanish, and somehow we found a way to point and grunt and get the work done. But that was a neat opportunity to get to do something just a little bit more than just the carrying stuff.
Yeah.
It was amazing to watch the progress that was able to be made even in just the week we were there in La Palmilla, to see it go from just some stacks of block to pillars being poured in concrete, and then headers, and the whole stairwell that was built while we were there. That was neat to see.
I was saying, and now you have a backup career now that you've learned some new skills.
Yeah, don't count on it.
Which is nice. Oh, were any of you guys there when they poured the cement for the one pillar and the wood all broke open and it poured out?
Yeah, I
on the roof.
I think I was on the roof.
I never saw that.
Oh my gosh, it was crazy. Yeah, rectangle. The mold didn't hold, and so the one corner split open, and it just sludged out. So then they're cleaning it up, trying to reassess and redo it. And I was like, okay, well at least it wasn't one of our team members that did that. That was their job. That was on them to do that. But other than that, just the skill set of all the workers of things that they were able to do, and they'd give us simple tasks and we'd find a way to complicate it, and then they'd be like, but if you just did this, and then it'd be so much quicker. I remember one day with Nancy, we were disconnecting boards that they had used for molds, and we were taking the nails out of them, and we were detaching them and then scraping off the excess cement on them. And I think it was Ephraim, came over, and he was like, oh, if you just put this wood under the hammer and then do this, saves you all the muscle energy of what we were doing. And so it's just little things like that was you appreciated more of all the things they know and learned and are having their skill set that I have no idea what the heck I'm doing.
Did you guys learn anything about assembly lines?
Which was your favorite assembly line? This is just for Oscar since he never listened. Which would you say was your favorite? We had one almost every single day.
I think the first one was nice.
Yeah.
Because we just did it, and it was nice. No, actually, I didn't like carrying the big blocks.
That was the first
I pinched
one.
my finger.
Blocks.
I pinched my finger. It hurt so bad. I was trying to pick it up.
And the first, almost all of our work days, the first 3 days when we didn't have the staircase, and there was just a giant wooden plank with other pieces of wood as the steps that were nailed into it, and so carrying up the cinder blocks, the full buckets and stuff up that really, really messes with your feet and your ankles and stuff, going up and down that. And then we had a few that were scared of heights, so we didn't even push that on them. But no, that was pretty nice. And then one of the last days, I don't know if anyone else saw this on the roof, Hoel, who was the foreman, he was putting blocks somewhere towards the top of the roof and was having Peter just throw cinder blocks up towards him. I have a video of it somewhere. It was literally just chucking maybe 40 cinder blocks.
That's amazing. I didn't see that
up to him. I'll show you the video later.
That must have been when I was writing my sermon.
Yes. Yeah.
My sermon that I didn't know I was preaching until Thursday.
Yeah, but that gave you more days than me. I found out Monday I was preaching Sunday. I was preaching Wednesday.
Yeah, but you had to know you were preaching. You knew you were preaching.
I anticipate both of us preaching at some point. But no, that was a great opportunity that Scott and I got to share and do, and have that with like having that bilingual service was really interesting. And then the one night, was it the night you preached that they did the trilingual worship?
Yeah.
With no,
that was really cool.
Yeah. Tell us about that service.
That was my favorite part of like the whole trip. It was, I guess, like earlier in the week, it was very hard to sing Spanish because I literally don't know any of it.
Yeah.
And translation, I just sort of like stopped listening to it because it was just so hard to keep up, and I was sort of confused and couldn't really hear, and I was hot, and I was thinking within the last service, the trilingual, it was just really nice because I was more focused, and I was sad because we were going to be leaving, and the worship service was just, it was really cool. I felt really moved. I think the whole place felt really moved. So, I don't know, it was amazing.
You said trilingual. We only spoke English and Spanish. What other language was there?
Nahuatl.
Yeah, no, right?
Let the people know. What's Nahuatl?
What's Nahuatl?
Is that the Aztec, very old Aztec language?
Yeah. And Nahuatl is the Aztec language that, because of a lot of the members of the community being more Native American descent rather than Spaniard descent, have actually carried down the Aztec language, even though it's still a dying language, and the younger generation isn't really picking it up. A good chunk of the locals still speak it, and so part of the worship, we did one of the choruses, I believe.
I think it was a chorus of How Great Thou Art.
Yeah, a chorus of How Great Thou Art. We alternated the whole song from English to Spanish to Nahuatl, and that was really, really beautiful.
Yeah, my Sisay, the mother, she actually knew that one, knew that language. Because I was trying to communicate like in Spanish through Google Translate, but then Maria came over and she was like, oh, she speaks like a different language. And I was like, oh, she must speak that Aztec language. I think that's what happened.
Yeah, and what's funny is they don't even call it, they don't usually refer to it as Nahuatl, they refer to it as Mexican. So like when you're like, oh, do you speak Mexican? And they're talking about Nahuatl. Which like if you were in the States and you said that, you'd be talking about Spanish.
Yeah.
So next time someone says that to me now, I could just start talking to them in Nahuatl, really confuse them, as if they know the difference.
As if you could actually talk to them in fluent Nahuatl.
I can get one solid sentence out, and that's all I need to confuse somebody. But how was worship in general for you, Josiah, or that service in specific? What stood out from our worship time?
I think it was pretty cool. Like the Spanish songs. I knew a bunch of them because like I knew them in English. And so it was kind of fun hearing it in other languages and like how different that was. And it wasn't terrible because I know like all the Spanish pronunciations, so I could read the words. It was just depending on how fast the song was going, if I could read them fast enough to sing a song. But I thought it was really cool. It was different.
Yeah. And if you can't sing in Spanish, you can always
clap.
Whistle.
Clap. Who here got better at clapping on beat through this trip? No?
I was so confused because like the parts where they sped up messed with me, and then like they kept swapping back and forth. There were times where they would go on like the 7th clap, and then times where they would go on like the 14th, and they would just like skip one, and it was, I couldn't get it down. It was too much.
They clap on 1 and 3.
Yeah.
That's so wrong.
If you're on beat, I don't care where you, as long as you're on beat.
It messed with me every time because, we normally clap on 2 and 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely.
But if they clapped in 2 and 4, could they still do the transition clap?
No, it would probably mess it up.
So you gotta do it on the 1 and 3.
No, I get why they do it. It just
really messed with
every time I went to start clapping, I'd be like, no, wait, okay.
That was the more entertaining part for me in the first few days, is trying to watch Oscar keep up with the clapping and him just being so off. And then he was so determined to get the transition because it's like, I think so, something like that. I can't remember. We gotta be there. And then sometimes they'd go from that, and then they'd go to the double pace.
Yeah.
Well, not, you get the idea. Yeah, it was, they know how to clap. And then people got tambourines in the audience, and then when we did a couple songs, we had tambourines. Yeah, we had the whole thing. We taught Oscar how to play the bass in a couple hours.
That's true, at least for a couple songs.
Yeah, what was it like being up on stage performing, since you guys aren't normally the ones that are doing that?
I was just singing, but not really, because Peter was the only one you could hear in the mic, according to Aum. But yeah, I mean, it was fine. Didn't really seem that much different. It just seemed cool that we were kind of, I guess, ministering to them in our own way.
Yeah. What about you, Sisay? How was that being up there?
It was cool, but I think Naum took our mic, like the girls' mic, so they couldn't hear us at all. So I was singing as loud as I could, just because I knew that they couldn't hear me. It was nice, but yeah, I think we could only hear Peter. But it was nice, yeah.
We should send them an apology.
For what?
If they could only hear Peter.
So I forgot to tell you guys, we haven't been invited back. And that was the main reason that they stated. But no, next time we'll get Sisay a singing solo to make up for the lack of mic this time. And in Spanish, don't worry, in Spanish. Make it even easier. But what do you think would be like your biggest takeaway from the whole trip? What's going to be different in your life here because of your time there?
Well, definitely to not take things for granted. That's, I think, is pretty obvious, because it was very different. I don't know. I will never forget, like, the people. The people were really just amazing. They were always happy, and they just made sure that we were okay and
Full,
yeah. I don't know. And the last church service was really nice for me, because I haven't had a really impactful church service that really just moved me and felt God in a while. Oh no, that's like my fault, but just connecting with God again was really, really nice. And the people, I'm a very observant person, so when I worship, I look around a lot, which is a bit weird, but I do that, and I don't know, everybody was just, they were happy, and they were clapping, and they were worshiping all together, and it was just so nice. And I'll never forget the people. The people were just amazing, and I'll never take things for granted again. And
remember, you heard that here, Sean and Nicole.
yeah, and I love experiencing different cultures. Culture is very big in my life.
You also learned a little bit from another culture besides Mexican culture, and you learned a new culinary skill. Would you like to share about that?
Oh, yeah. I guess that was our last night. Yeah, it was our last night. One of the girls, Karen, she was like a chef, and she said, apparently to Hannah, she was like, I can cook any American dish. You just name it and I can do it. So Hannah was like, okay, what about sushi?
Classic American fanfare. Yes.
Yeah. That last night, we went over to her house, me and my family and Hannah. Went over to her house, and she made sushi. It was very delicious, and I got to learn how to make it. It was very hard because I just got my nails done, so it was like hard. Yeah, by the way, these nails are amazing, and she did a great job. Yeah, it was hard, but it was fun. They were so happy, so.
Maybe that'll be the picture for this episode, is her new nails covered in the rice and stuff.
Yeah.
But what about you, Josiah?
So I'm a very judgmental person, I guess. And like going down there, they're all just so like accepting, and like they're just like bringing us into their homes and like giving us food, like beds, whatever we need to like get us through the week. And like I just thinking, like if that were to happen down here, I feel like I would not want to just invite some random person into my home. And I just like would love to be more accepting and like gracious like they are down there.
Yeah, I think mine's similar to Josiah's. I think over COVID and the years since then, as Americans got less used to having people in their home quite as much, it was so refreshing and kind of showed me again how much love can be communicated just by inviting someone into your home and serving a meal and you know, enjoying that meal together around the table. And so I felt like a little conviction to say, you know, you can open your doors, you know, you can invite people into your home. You can serve a meal to people too, and you can love them by doing that. So I think that was one of my big takeaways after these last few years. One question I have for you guys: what would you say to someone else who is maybe considering going on a short-term mission trip based on your experience in La Palmilla?
I mean, if it's an issue of money, then God always finds a way to provide. I mean, I think it's always worth going on missions trip, because it can really open you up to like a lot of things and grow you like closer to God in a lot of ways. And it did for me, definitely, in Mexico through those services, because they translated everything for us, the sermons, and they did not have to, because we were the only people that spoke English there. And it always helps, I guess.
Well, I want to close out with thanking you guys for being on the podcast, but also how well everyone was on the trip, and this goes for everyone that was on the team as well, that I'm so glad I'm not in charge of your lives anymore. It's absolutely exhausting. And like, I knew that like in mission team mode, I can be very militant, I feel like, in comparison to how I normally am. But it's just like there's so many different factors going on that I take into consideration for everything we're doing. And no, I appreciate the grace I was given, especially as later in the week, all of our patience, I think, started to dwindle because we got physically and emotionally tired, and some of our social capacities were shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. But yeah, no, just that you guys were easily the best team that I've ever had the privilege of working with, and we made it back all alive. And I'm excited for us to go back in the year 2020. I don't know. Sometime. It sounds like you're hyping up for the next one, but we don't have a date. But we do plan on going back, rejoining with our brothers and sisters down there.
Yeah, and as a church, we plan to take other mission trips too. You know, La Familia is not the only place we're connected in mission, and next year we'll probably send a team somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Actually, I think next year might have 2.
We might have multiple trips next year.
Yeah. Youth specific and church-wide. But no, it's very exciting to see how God's working here, there, everywhere. Well, come back to us next week as we get back into the flow of what this normally is.
Well, that's our conversation for today. But that doesn't mean the conversation is over. We'd love to hear your thoughts on these topics as well. To ask a question about anything we've discussed in this episode, or to join the conversation, you can head over to fumccollingswood.org/podcast. Thanks for being part of this conversation.